edition of Ulster Project Delaware Inc.'s virtual community speaker series. We're really excited to have a recent UPD alum hosting three amazing guests who will introduce themselves soon. Just in general, I'm Theresa Sullivan. I am a previous teen from 1997 of Ulster Project, past board member and discovery leader. And just to give a little background, Ulster Project Delaware Inc. is a vital program in the communities of Delaware and Northern Ireland and has been making a difference in the lives of hundreds of teens for years. For more than 40 years, our program originated as a haven for teens from Northern Ireland during the month of July at the height of the Troubles and continues to be a sanctuary of space and time. Changing and developing over the decades, what has remained consistent is a month of community grounded in friendship, exploration of peace and tolerance, leadership development, and discovery of self and community responsibility for all involved. At a time in our country when divisions are wide and issues of race, religious intolerance, and violence are in the headlines locally and nationally, the mission, values, and commitment to community in UPD are profoundly important to us. We're committed to helping the youth of today become thoughtful, compassionate leaders in a divided world. We are sad to say that for 2 years now, we haven't been able to have the program, but what's been exciting to us is the ability to bring other community organizations working in our same goals to really raise their voice and teach us all in our UPD community and larger than that about the awesome work they're doing. So I'm gonna take a step back and Missy will take it away. Thanks.
All right, good morning, good afternoon. My name's Missy. I'm a recent alum. I did UPD in 2016, and since then I've worked on the Student Youth Board and also ran the Instagram for a little bit. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be able to do this. So if you guys want to start by introducing yourselves.
Yes, thank you so much for having us here. I can start. Hi, everyone. I am Tariah Hyland. I'm a current rising freshman at Howard University and a graduating senior from St. George's Technical High School. And I am a proud co-founder of the Delaware Black Student Coalition and a newly advisory board member of it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elise Sampson. I am a rising senior at Smyrna High School. I am also a co-founder of the Delaware Black Student Coalition, and we have just had a transition of power, so I am now president of the Delaware Black Student Coalition.
Hello, everyone. I'm Makaya Tatum Islam. I'm a rising senior at Del Castle Technical High School, and I am the vice president of the Delaware Black Student Coalition.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so we can just jump right in. So whoever wants to, just answer first, and then. So can you start by telling us how you came involved in activism, a little bit of your background, anything like that?
I can start. I've always been involved in sort of just using my voice and advocating, but definitely it changed with each level. And I always have felt obligated to be involved within the movement just because of, my existence as a Black woman in America, a country that is stacked against Black women. And so I was always forced to, use my voice and to just advocate and speak for myself. But I would definitely say in high school, I turned it up a lot because my high school, it is predominantly white. And I just could not even be silent anymore because I didn't really use my voice as much as I did in high school. And I just started to really unapologetically advocate, unapologetically lead. And then over time, I just continued to grow and grow with using my voice and advocating. I was able to this year, be a part of writing House Bill 198 that mandates Black studies within the curriculum, which is just a small piece of, the work that I do within just advocating and making sure that, all people, specifically Black students and Black people, are just being treated equally and just having equal access to education and just rights in general.
I guess I can go next. So I always say that in my younger years, my parents, we always had discussions about race, but I was never directly connected to it. I grew up in Southern Delaware my entire life. So, mid to Southern Delaware, I lived in Smyrna and Middletown. And so I didn't always feel connected to those issues growing up. But then as I moved into high school, I definitely think that you see the transition between white students and Black students, the kids that you grew up with and have been around, your whole lives. I think that they start to realize their privilege, and that makes for a lot of changes. So I endured like a series of racial bullying when I got to high school, between my 8th grade year and moving into high school. And it made me just understand that there are other students that are probably going through the same exact thing, and how much just racism and discrimination and bias that is enrooted in our communities. So my sophomore year, I decided to found the Black Student Union at my high school, because I just felt like there was something that I needed to do to take a stand against this. And I think that that was my first way of showing my activism and being like, again, like Theresa said, unapologetic about what I'm doing, and very intentional as well. And, through the years after that, I feel like things have just fallen into place. And after creating, the Black Student Union at my high school, I, kicked it up a notch and helped create a statewide coalition.
For me, I've always been interested in using my voice and being an advocate since elementary school, as I can remember. But same as Theresa, sorry for my background. Same as Theresa, my advocacy. I'm sorry. My advocacy has really heightened in high school. Well, it sort of has been. I've tried to create a Black student union, but unfortunately, some odds were against us, and some of our administrators weren't as open-minded in 2019 as they are now. So thank the heavens that we have it now, and that we're working towards a better future for our school and our state. But yeah, same as Theresa, I've always been interested in using my voice for better good, especially being Black in America. Odds are sort of kind of against you, so you have no choice but to use your voice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. It's amazing to see how you were so young and getting involved and, really using your voice. It's very inspiring as well. So what are some of the goals of the coalition? You already kind of talked about how it got started, but how did the three of you kind of connect and, build this thing, and what are some of the goals of it?
So I guess I can start with this one. The main goal of our coalition, the main reason that we founded the Delaware Black Student Coalition, is because we feel like there's no one place in Delaware where Black teens Black teens and students can authentically be themselves. And we wanted to provide that space where we can have conversations, very intentionally, and, without having to code switch or without having to be mindful of the spaces that we're in. Because that's always something that, we have to do as Black students. And it's also to connect students throughout the state of Delaware. So these calls that we're getting on, the way that we're networking for ourselves, the way that we're building a resume for ourselves, we wanted to make sure that other teens and the future generation coming up behind us had access to that same opportunity. And so we are very big on not gatekeeping. We try to open up everything we possibly can and pull up the ones behind us. I feel like, you're not going anywhere if you're gatekeeping every opportunity for yourself. You must pull up the generations behind you to ensure that change keeps happening. And Theresa, if you want to touch on, what our mission is and what we stand for.
Yes, for sure. So our primary mission is just literally just bridging the gap between Black students across Delaware. Even within the founding circle, all of the founders are literally at different high schools and all across the state of Delaware. And all of the founders are founders of their Black student unions. And me, I'm one of the newly founders of, I guess, my prospective Black student union. I fought for my Black student union all 4 years of my high school career. And at the end of my senior year is when we were finally appointed the Black student union. And it was with really the support of, my circle within DBSC that, really kept me grounded and really that helped me get the Black student union. And that's really something that we also really aim towards, is like really pushing Black student unions and high schools within Delaware, helping students that within the coalition that don't have a Black student union to be able to found one. We're currently assisting one of our members in getting a Black student union within her school. We were meeting with another teacher at another school who's going to be an advisor to a new Black student union. So our really overall goal really is to just continue pushing the initiative of Black student unions, supporting Black students, and really just creating a space for them to exist unapologetically.
I can sort of talk about why I joined DBSC, if that correlates. When I first heard of DBSC, I really like the mission behind empowering young Black minds, and that's what I stand. Something I stand so strong for is empowerment, and the idea of encouraging young Black people to use their voice and to advocate for their own lives as well as others. So I really just thought DBSC would be another step as to bringing my leadership forward more and strengthening my skills.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all amazing stories, like how you came together, how you fought for it, and like how you're really like it's something you believe in and you're really fighting for it. So I mean, you kind of touch on this a little bit, but why do you think it's so important for young people to lend their voices, stand up and speak up in battles against injustice in this country or
I'll go first. I believe it is important because odds are literally against us. And most of the times we do not know where we are going or how do we start. We don't know where to get our confidence from initially. So through using our voices and empowering others, it just takes one to start. I go by the matchbox theory. Once you strike a match, the others can be lit. So once that one person steps up and use their voice, it'll encourage other people to use their voice and so on. So it's really just important not only for our confidence, but for our mental state of mind. Um, growing up Black in America isn't always what it seems to be. It isn't always happy. We do go through struggles. Um, so it's different for different people with different living conditions of where they're from. But most of the times we are faced with that adversity or with that racial stereotyping, even though it may not reflect us, but it's I don't want to say it's life because that's sad, but it's what it's turned out to be now. So I just think it's really important for young people to just encourage other people is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And I think one of the big things that I discussed lately with Taraya and through my internship at United Way this summer is, a lot of times we are told as teens and as kids to stay in a child's place, or that this is not something that we should worry about, that we should approach it much differently. I tell this story all the time, but I was told by a state representative during House Bill 198 that we have to be a quiet storm and we have to get our foot through the door. And I live by that. I'm not a quiet storm. I'm a hurricane. I'm going to kick the door down. And so I really believe that we are the next generation and we're the next generation of change. And if we don't speak up and use our voices, we are doing an injustice to the generations to come. And I always say that, if it's up to me, I would much rather, I make a strong future for my younger sister or, my children or my grandchildren than staying silent to benefit me or to make me comfortable. And I think that it's important to raise your voice because that's the only way that change has been made in this country is, raising your voice and being intentional about it and being loud about it. Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. I really believe that being unapologetically about your truth and your experiences and really speaking to change the lives of future generations and to really impact society in a whole is so, so, so important. And even I know how important it is, just reflective of my experiences. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how much courage it takes to be able to use your voice and to be the face of a movement and to advocate unapologetically, to advocate in front of people that, may have more power than you. But it's so important. And you are really just so powerful. So that's something that I sort of had to remind myself of a lot is that, yes, I am powerful. Yes, my experiences are valid. So yes, I'm going to use my voice. And even just reflective of, in my junior year of high school, my junior and senior year of high school, when I created a page that, spoke out about the injustices that, all the students within my school district were facing. And it highlighted the stories of racism and bias and all that, students were encountering within my school district. I created the page and spoke out against my administration. And it was scary. It was so scary, but I still did it. And it changed the trajectory of my entire school district. It changed the trajectory of my school district for future generations. We were able to get, a diversity club. We were able to get, a Black Student Union and just different initiatives that continued to help and support students of color.
Wow, thank you. It's like what Elise said about, you know, not being a quiet storm, being a hurricane, and really using your voice, and like mentioning how it takes courage. It's not an easy thing, but this, you know, you have to stand up for what you believe in. You can't be quieted and speak up for the younger generations. It's also inspiring to hear that you were all doing this at such a young age. And so, kind of into our next question, how could those listening, especially teens in Delaware, get involved virtually or in person?
Well, the first thing I would do is say join Delaware Black Student Coalition. We are constantly advocating for change and looking at next steps to help the Delaware community, especially for students. But one of the biggest things is what Micaiah said is confidence, is being able to use your voice and feeling comfortable using your voice. I think it's important to reach out to any group that you can reach out to. The NAACP is a great resource. Like I said, Delaware Black Student Coalition, and there are many, many more social justice and racial equity groups that you can join. Also, just I'm really big on knowing your stuff, staying educated, researching, and keeping up. That's one of the biggest things for staying involved and being able to use your voice, is knowing what you're talking about.
Yes, I agree. And I also would add to really just find what you're passionate about, find what you are willing to advocate for and to just fight for, because this is tiring work. So I wouldn't do something that you know that you're not passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, you're going to easily be tired of it and not really want to really advocate for it as much as you would for something that you're passionate about. So I would say start with finding what you're passionate about, what needs to change right now for you, future generations, that you are passionate enough and willing to really, really educate yourself about and speak unapologetically about for hours and hours and hours. And I think that's the first important step. And then find spaces where you are able to advocate, find spaces that, you know, are necessary in advocating. So for me, since I'm very passionate about education equity, specifically in regard to Black students, I knew it was necessary that we, you know, mandate Black studies and have curriculum that, you know, ensure that we are being taught inclusive education. So where did I go? I was able to work with legislators in creating a bill that mandated Black studies within the curriculum. So see how like everything aligned, my passions, and then starting to find the space where I can advocate. And most of the work that I've done this year has been virtual. So there are opportunities that you can take advantage of that are virtual. You just have to do the work to find them. And like Elise said, reach out to the Delaware Black Student Coalition, and we're more than willing to assist you.
And piggybacking off of Elise and Taraya, find that group that you're passionate about and just study them for a while. Like, education means everything in the world of advocating. So you want to make sure that you know what you're talking about before you step out to actually do the advocating and do the work and be in the front row. So maybe just find the group like the Delaware Black Student Coalition and start out as a general member, and then see what they're really about, see what details it entails to raise, like, heighten your voice and your advocacy, and just find that passion and use it and educate yourself before you step out. That could really blow them out the water once you use your voice.
I completely agree. And I think that one of the big things is finding your place. I think that everybody's journey looks different. And that's one thing that I always preach, that everybody's advocacy journey is going to look different. Everybody is not going to start out starting a Black student union, founding a statewide coalition, making a speaks page against their school district. Everybody's advocacy looks different. Just like Micaiah said, it's okay to start out as a general member, because look where Micaiah is now. Micaiah is vice president. And it's okay to start out in rooms where you're just observing. You're observing what things look like. You're observing what you want to advocate for, and you work your way up. It's important to start at different places, because that is what gives us different experiences.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree again. And I would also say it's really important to find out how you like to advocate, because not everyone can be at the front lines or is ready to be at the front lines. So find what works for you. Do you like being behind the scenes? Do you like being in front, leading the marches? Do you want to be giving the speeches? Like, what do you want to do, and how can you best use your voice most efficiently? Because it looks different. Some people do artwork and poetry and write. So really find what works for you and something that you can do.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Did you want to talk about, you mentioned like, you know, poetry, things like that, different ways that people advocate. do you guys want to touch on like the platform that you use, how you advocate, how you spread the word about the Delaware Black Student Coalition, like things you've done, social media, or anything like that?
I can start. I would definitely say I'm much more behind the scenes. As of right now, I always say that I want to be on the front lines. And one of my biggest role models is Angela Davis, and she was on the front line. She was so like radically, unapologetically herself. And that's really to the point where I want to get to. But in the height of COVID, it's hard to go to protests, especially my mom is immunocompromised. So there's definitely like a safety precaution when it comes to that. But my parents always say I'm a social media advocate. I'm constantly posting on my Instagram, reposting things and doing polls and stuff like that. For the Delaware Black Student Coalition, I run the social media page. So I'm the one, making the infographics and sometimes coming up with the ideas. So I definitely would say I'm more of a behind the scenes advocate. And even in the things that I do, I don't always put myself out there because I feel like it's important to move mountains, behind the scenes sometimes and, demand change, from the people who, like the stakeholders, the state representatives, the state legislators, teachers, principals, those are the people to demand change from. So yeah, I would say I'm a little bit more behind the scenes.
For me, I would definitely say I'm a mix of being behind the scenes and then being out there. I really enjoy public speaking. So I have, done various speaking engagements. I really am trying to grow as a speaker. And so have been found and invited to many spaces to speak about, the work that I do and just to really advocate. But I am also just very behind the scenes within the work that I do. I write, I had an op-ed published. I do poetry, but I'm not really as public with my poetry. I kind of just keep that to myself as sort of like a therapeutic outlet. But that also just really helps me just, use my voice and to just really figure out, what and how I like to use my voice. But I would definitely say most importantly, I really love public speaking and just really being, I guess, on the front lines and protesting. I'm really, really, really passionate about protesting and organizing, just radically just moving.
And as for me, lately I've been really focused on educating myself so that when I talk, I come across correct and I won't miss anything when I'm advocating. But usually my advocacy, I do it more in my school district than anything else because I feel like you have to start where the students are at and it can just flourish from there.
And I would say it does start as small as just within your circle, within your friend group. How are you checking your friends that, say ignorant or disrespectful things? How are you checking your family members that, are uneducated? And it really starts there and then growing from there because most importantly, it's within your circle that you really are able to efficiently and effectively change perspectives and have those really uncomfortable conversations and just have conversations grounded, in truth and love and just an attempt to help, those individuals grow. So I really think it starts there. And I would say when advocating, I do want to highlight the fact that it is exhausting work and you will get exhausted. But it's what you do to really prevent yourself from really just burning out. Because I know myself, I have a really bad habit of stretching myself thin. My senior year, this past year, was a crazy year for me because it was my senior year and I was doing a lot within the community. And then applying to college, it was a lot. And I stretched myself very thin and I started to get burned out. So I really had to learn, what brought me peace. And really start choosing peace and in various situations and choosing myself, taking more self-care days, and finding what, just brings me back to homeostasis and just maintain that balance because, you can't expect to save other people if you can't save yourself. So I really think it's important that you take care of yourself first, prioritize yourself, and then save the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. And I really, really stood with what Theresa said about reaching back into your circle. I agree with her. As student leaders, we spread ourselves so thin, and sometimes it's hard to realize, where you're really making an impact. So this past year, my junior year, I served on the Delaware State Board of Education as a student representative, and oftentimes it was hard to use my voice because what can one student do to raise their voice for an entire state of students? And so it's just a lot of pressure. And over time, I've realized that I really need to dive into my community. I'm so focused on making change at a state level, and my community is suffering with racial injustice every day. So I really started diving into when we had Black History Month, I dove into making a district-wide Black History Month celebration, not just for my school, but for my entire community, because again, it is about the generations to come. Not only that, but coming off of the Delaware State Board of Education as a junior, you look at your senior year and you're like, what's next? Where do I progress? And it's not always about moving up to the next level. Sometimes it's about reaching back down. And I ran for the Smyrna School Board of Education and was appointed to that. So I definitely agree with your community and reaching back into your circle. Sometimes, you look at everything and you want to make so much change. And so you're going for the big things. You're going for the thing that stands out the most, but you have to look at things in perspective and look at things in the bigger picture. If you work on Smyrna and you work on Middletown, you're going to eventually get around to the whole state.
And at least I think that's even more important. Like that's even more important than, sometimes when we think of, how we advocate on a national level versus state level. We're more than likely to get so much more change while, advocating within our state, speaking to your state legislators, speaking to, your principals, your teachers, your board of education, compared to we're posting a social media post for, a national legislation. It's more so effective when you, like you said, Elise, reach back into your community and start there and then gradually work your way up.
Yes, thank you all so much for sharing. And also thanks for highlighting the fact that, as much as you want to just help people, sometimes you got to take a little time for yourself. And like you said, save yourself first, then save the world. It's, again, just inspiring. And also, it's a good message to, as much as you want to do all these things, you can't stretch yourself too thin. You can't let yourself burn out. You got to take care of yourself first. And thank you. I really appreciate all your answers and all your honesty and everything. So I just have one more question for you guys. And feel free to run with this any way you want, but what are you most excited for in the upcoming school year, whether it's, actually in school with the Delaware Black Student Coalition?
So I guess I can start. For me, it looks a little differently because I'll be transitioning to college now. So I think for me, I'm most excited about what I do next and how I can go bigger. And that's something that, I have to maintain a healthy balance of, because I do add a lot of pressure to myself and just constantly I'm going bigger than what I did before and just constantly just doing greater things and reaching higher heights. So I guess that's something that I'm extremely intentional about as I, embark this new journey of college. It's just how can I maximize off of this experience? How can I be the best advocate possible? How can I just be the best leader as I can possibly be and just really maximize off of being within DC? But I would say in reflection of DBSC, I'm really interested and excited to see how much further we go, especially with this transition in leadership. This is the first time we publicly even announced our transition of leadership. We actually just appointed Micaiah yesterday, or Micaiah and Elise, but we just appointed the new executive board yesterday. So this is all very, very fresh. So I'm really excited to see how things go. And I'm a little sad to be stepping back from my baby, but also just really excited for this new journey that we're all about to embark.
Micaiah, you go ahead.
Okay. I would say I'm looking forward for this school year. Really the work in my district, as well as DBSC. Like I said, my advocacy started in my district. So being a senior now, I'm excited to see what the recruits I've mentored can do for their class, their junior class, as what I did. And for DBSC, I'm excited for what we have in store. It's a new position of power. And I'm just excited to see what we're going to do next. Yeah.
I I'm so excited for my senior year in general. Just being able to basically do, when you're a senior, you have a lot less pressure as far as classes and stuff like that. So you really have more time to do the things that you want to do. I'm excited for where my Black Student Union is going to go this year. I'm definitely excited to be president of the Delaware Black Student Coalition and be able to work with Micaiah and the rest of our executive board. I really want to use my position on the Smyrna School Board to, advocate for racial equity within my school district. And then obviously I want that to move up into the state level. Like I said, I'm more of behind the scenes, but I do want to get into more public speaking opportunities and just using my voice like out loud as much as possible and advocating as much as I can for the Delaware community before I go off to college.
Yes, awesome. That all sounds amazing. I'm so excited for you guys in your endeavors this year, both in school and with the Delaware Black Student Coalition. I'm so excited to see. I'm going to follow along now where this takes you. And, it's just an amazing journey. So I just want to thank you guys so much for, taking time out of your day to talk to us, like educate us and really just talk about what got you here and what inspired you. We really appreciate it. This has been awesome. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Theresa.
All right. Well, I just want to thank all four of you for coming together to speak with us today. This has been really exciting. Some great lessons I think that you've brought to us in just a short amount of time. I really love what you said about even starting with checking in with ourselves, our own family and friends, and starting there. And you just give such an example of the power of the voice of young people. It's incredible. And what I'm so touched by is the way you talked about creating a safe space for hard conversations grounded in truth and love. I think that was what Shariah was saying. I know I can't sum it up as well, but I think that is so wonderfully inspiring that you had, and hard that you had to do that for yourselves, but now you have that space. And I think that's so meaningful. And that's also what we're trying to do with Ulster Project for all these years. So to me, that's such an amazing connection. And I can just say that I am so excited. And I think this is an awesome partnership. We have youth leaders that are such a good example in our community, in all three of you. And I hope, I'm excited, and I think UPD is excited to see what your next year comes. Thank you for bringing us on with the breaking news of your executive board. I think it's amazing for your leadership and service and dedication. So thank you again so much. And like I said, I wish you all the best in this year. And I hope this is the beginning of a really cool partnership with the youth that we bring together with all of you. If you have any just last things that you wanted to say, I think this would be a great time. But again, we can't thank you enough. And I think there's awesome things ahead. So we're glad to be in it and watching you grow and see what happens next.
I just want to say thank you so much for having us here today. It was an amazing conversation. If any teenagers that are watching this need any assistance, please reach out to the Delaware Black Student Coalition, whether that is through our website, our email, or our Instagram. We are always, looking for new people to join us and looking for ways to pull other people up. Even if you don't want to join the coalition, sometimes you just need someone to talk to about those hard conversations. And so we are always available. And yeah, just thanks again for having us here.